welcome to the Art of Costume Podcast. I'm Elizabeth Joy Glass.
And I'm Spencer Williams Shelby. I would have married into the family. I would not have been one of the,
You would have been like the cute, nice boy Ada, like, found.
Yeah.
Like,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
You should be like, you'd be a good stepdad.
Yeah. And everyone in the Shelby family would have hated me.
Yeah. No. They'd all really like you, but they'd be like, we can't tell him anything.
Yeah, we can't. He's a gossiper. Hey, costume nerds. I'm so excited to be here. Rounding out our Mobster March with a real interesting show.
Yes. Excellent TV show. I have been telling Spencer to watch for years.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't till just now.
Yeah. And Elizabeth does not fully know my thoughts. But before we get into that, we actually have to start off with a special announcement.
Yes.
I am so excited to announce that on Friday, March 28th, I'm going to be moderating a panel at WonderCon. This is coming out, I believe, on Tuesday, so it's a couple days from this point.
Yes.
So you still have time to still get your passes. The panel is going to be called Threads of Fantasy, Fright, and High Stakes Action, Friday, March 28th at 3:30. And I'm going to be interviewing so many cool costume designers. Jennifer Bryan from The Acolyte, Marie Schlee from Yellow Jackets, Cynthia Summers from The Last of Us Season 1, Annie Loper from The Fall Guy, and of course, Christine Wada from Loki.
Yes, I'm so excited for you.
It's going to be such a good time. I'm very excited. I love all these women, and I hope you'll all come out and see me talk costumes. I've never been to WonderCon before, so I don't really
jealous.
know what to expect, but I mean, it'll be a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to be in this room with all these incredible costume designers. So come out and see me. Elizabeth, are you ready to get to our order of business?
I am Spencer. What did you watch for the very first time this week? Stop it.
You watched Peaky Blinders.
I wondered if you were gonna do something, but I was like, you usually like let on.
Yeah, I did
that you're gonna do something, and you really kept this under your hat, literally.
I got this cool hat because I want to be Thomas Shelby. Good news and bad news. Good news, my head is not a size large or extra large. Bad news is the hat doesn't fit, so
that's unfortunate.
I know, so the bit's kind of dead, but
like you can hide your identity real well with it,
and your razor blades, by the way.
Yeah,
which
you're set,
handy,
Spencer.
Actually, so I'm not going to wear it, sadly, but it would have been. I'll just leave it right there.
Yeah,
there you go.
Our mascot for this episode.
Well, let's get to Peaky Blinders. Elizabeth, I'm so glad you got me to watch this. I am obsessed with the show.
I told you.
Had such a good time. I binged all 6 seasons this week.
You did.
I haven't really left the house much. Elizabeth actually got me out of the house this morning to go to breakfast. I've only been leaving to get substance, and
I had to yell at him through a window yesterday.
Yeah, like, hey. But it was so worth it, and I'm just, I've heard everyone talk about how great the show is before, but just some reason never got around to it, and God, it was so good, and I'm so glad to know that there's gonna be a movie being made too.
I know, it's very exciting.
Yeah, but we'll get into that. Just to know that I get to be a part of it. I
know. You're like, I've hopped on board at the right time.
Yeah, I'm going to act like I've been a day oneer when this movie comes out.
You're like, I've been here since season 1, episode 1. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously a lot to cover with 6 seasons, so we'll just jump right into it with a summary. This series was, of course, created by Stephen Knight. In Birmingham, England, Thomas Shelby strives to turn his family's business legitimate, but he has to contend with his tight but dysfunctional family, the criminal enterprises that made him a rich man, and a woman he falls in love with. And that is Peaky Blinders. That must be a season 1 description. That's
I mean, that's kind of what he does the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it, but he has a love interest every other episode, but that's neither here nor there.
He's usually got like a main love interest and like a side girl.
Side girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take it away, Elizabeth.
But let's meet our costume designers. So over the 6 seasons of Peaky Blinders, there have been 4 costume designers. Season 1, we have Stephanie Coley. Season 2, we have Lorna Marie Muggen. Season 3, we have Alexandra Caulfield. And for seasons 4 through 6, Alison McCosh. Now, when it comes to Peaky Blinders, Stephen Knight had a very specific vision for the show that he shared with fastcompany.com, saying, "From the beginning, we were looking to do a period piece that wasn't like any other period piece that had been done before. Americans have no fear of mythologizing their own history." 19th century agricultural laborers became cowboys. In England, we're almost embarrassed by that kind of thing. But I wanted Peaky Blinders to have the same kind of boldness you see in American Westerns, which I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it.
Yeah.
Because like Peaky Blinders is so wild and it has so much just energy for something that's actually quite depressing at times. I'm just like, what? Like, it's familiar but so distinctive. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's like a Western.
Yeah, it's like a Western. It almost feels like superhero-esque at times. I mean, Thomas Shelby literally is like the immortal man. All of them are. I mean, I was hooked on the show the second the theme song by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds came on. I
love that song.
I mean, that's on my goth playlist. I've been listening to that forever. So as soon as that song started, I was like, oh, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Episode 1. Oh, man, such a good show. I think we should take a little break, get our head together. We have a lot to cover.
Yeah, we'll dive into season 1 in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Dan, who does all the magic behind the scenes. I wanted to say thank you, and if you want to support the show even farther, go to tpublic.com/user/theartofcostume, where you can buy a couple variations of our logo on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. Also, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and if you're an audio listener, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Now, back to the show.
All right, Elizabeth, you've prepared a lot of behind the costume facts for us this week. So are you ready?
I am ready to dive in with season 1, designed by Stephanie Coley, who we unfortunately lost last year, but she has left behind a wonderful body of work. You will know her work from London Has Fallen and its sequel, Angel Has Fallen, 2019's Hellboy, and the first season of My Lady Jane. She put so much work into this first season that just really carries the look of the show all the way through. She spoke to Close on Film about the research process for Peaky Blinders, saying, "The real Peaky Blinders were almost 20 years earlier. But because we went 20 years later, I researched lots and lots of photos. Getty Images have a great archive, very useful. There was also a book we loved called Crooks Like Us by Peter Doyle, which mainly focused on Australian convicts. That's actually where we got the haircuts from." And looking at some of these photos from the book, I'm like, oh yeah, these are the Peaky Blinder like mugshots.
Yeah, totally. It looks just like them. I gotta admit, I actually was trying to get my haircut on Thursday and Friday just to get my undercut back because I've never wanted it so badly after watching.
A couple of the times I've seen you with like a fresh haircut, I've thought like, Spencer looks like a Peaky Blinder.
Thank you.
But I never said anything because you hadn't watched it.
My girl Shelly at Supercuts just know I'm coming because I'm ready to just shave this back off, because every time Arthur or Tommy looked all tussled, it's like, but yeah, they look great. And that's challenging to when the real Peaky Blinders, this show has a lot of content that's based in history. It's not, it's definitely a fiction, but there's elements to it. But like having to recreate this some of these people, but 20 years later, that's kind of a tough challenge to wrap your brain around.
It is. But she wasn't like super concerned about historical accuracy, which I really appreciated. And she talked about a little bit saying, at the end of the day, you want it to be entertaining. I mean, I would never want to use anything that's historically wrong, but we heighten things to make them more relatable, which I feel like that's something Peaky Blinders does very well across the board, is make everything very relatable.
Yeah.
And especially because this starts in 1919, which is like a year of change. It's like, we don't have like the 1920s flapper style, like full force, but it's starting to come into fashion. You still kind of have like that Edwardian look, like petering out. But where this show goes so strong are the Shelby boys.
Yeah. Oh, man. They kill it. They kill it.
In her conversation with Close on Film, Stephanie said of the Peaky Blinders signature look, it's all about wearing a good suit with confidence and not being afraid to be individual, to add little touches. For the Peaky Blinders, the clothes were about them showing their worth. They would go without to have that fantastic suit because for them, it was all about status. It shows where they stand in their neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's good stuff. I mean, it's true, though. There was individuality to each of their costumes. I mean, they all had their little trinkets, the little watches, I was obsessed with actually like all of just like the little jewelry pieces you would see on their vests and whatnot. Yeah. And you always say this, but you always say that you wish people dressed up more.
I do.
I'm down for this.
This is what I'm talking about.
One thing I want to bring up too, Thomas Shelby's collars that he was doing. Phenomenal.
Right.
I mean, I think it's like a stand-up Mandarin collar, and some of them. This is in history the time where collars detached. So a lot of times he simply does not have a collar attached to his shirt. Gotcha.
But we'll talk a little bit about Tommy's collars in a bit.
Oh, okay.
But one thing that really comes through that she talked about for the boys' wardrobe was, for her, the best thing was how much the boys loved their clothes. And I think you get a feel of that by the way they walk. They have a swagger about them.
Yeah, totally.
Which, like the way they move in these costumes is so ingrained in the show. If she hadn't gotten it right, they would have different performances, I think. Right.
And just think about like all the time these costumes got. I mean, basically every other episode, there would be a moment with them walking through, the town that the Peaky Blinders have ownership of. Just like long walks, through the street with them in slow motion, showing off their costumes, which are always my favorite moments.
A gust of wind having the overcoats just blow.
And then like that one auto factory just blowing up fire behind them all the time.
They're just walking.
Occasionally like Polly would be there, or Ada too. Just like, I mean, it's so cool.
They're like, we own this town.
Yeah, and their costumes really got their showcase because of it. Because they're the perfect models, every single one of them.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. They're also the perfect model for the Peaky Blinders signature hat, which Stephen Knight talked to the Fast Company about a little bit. And this was something I didn't know till this week, because they never explain it in the show, how the Peaky Blinders got their name.
Right.
And it's from the razors in their hats, blinding people. And I was like, this makes sense.
I got that about like 3 seasons in. I was like, oh. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But
especially because we're over here on the west coast of America. I don't know about the Peaky Blinders in England 100 years ago. And
you could fit a lot of razor blades in this bad boy.
You could.
Yeah. And then this one has like a little clip.
Oh, look at that. You could put some spares in there.
You could put like 5-6 razors in this bad boy. Oh, man.
Stephen Knight talked about it to Fast Company saying, They had more effective weapons like guns and knives, but just the fact that they had razor blades as part of these crowns that they wore, it was like a uniform to scare people.
Yeah,
I'm like, it is their crown. They go.
Look, I have a thing about anything sharp, knives, razor blades, X-Acto knives. Just seeing them, I always feel like squeamish. So if someone walked into my bar with a hat and I saw 5 razor blades poking out, I'd be like,
to take whatever you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, talking about scary men, we have the wonderful Cillian Murphy as Thomas Shelby.
Man, what a man. That's Dan's man crush.
I'm not
Murphy.
Surprised. I'm not surprised. He's a beautiful man.
Yeah, and he's so, Daniel, if you're listening, which I hope you are because you're editing this, you got to watch this show because it's just 6 seasons of good stuff.
Yeah. I'd be shocked if Daniel hasn't already watched this.
He will be after this.
Yeah,
that's
you
for
will.
Sure.
Yeah, you will. But Stephanie talked about Thomas Shelby's look, saying for season 1, Cillian has literally only got 1 or 2 suits throughout, but hopefully you don't notice that because you're so engrossed in the story. Normally, of course, a man would have always worn a tie with a stiff collar, but we thought with Cillian, that wouldn't do to keep everything sort of pared down. Plus, he's got that beautiful face. What else do you need?
His eyes are piercing.
I know.
I mean, you would almost think he's wearing contacts at times because they're so
blue.
They look right into your soul in this show.
And I really love his look in this first season because, he's very polished.
Yeah.
Very polished, very put together, but still simple because he's still kind of rough and tumble, has to fight people on the regular.
Yeah, compared to season 1 to season 6, you definitely see the evolution of Thomas. But you still see he's definitely more put together compared to his other brothers.
Yes.
He also isn't afraid to incorporate a pinstripe, which to me says a little bit more oh, this is the boss.
Yeah.
Which even though it's not very clear that he's the boss in this first season, it's still, it could be Arthur, but everyone kind of knows this Tommy. So yeah, I think the costuming for Tommy is very subtle. It says that he, takes this maybe a lot more seriously than other people and has a more distinct vision for the future compared to, say, Arthur, who's just kind of in love with the game of it. Yeah. They all look great, but you could see that Tommy is the guy who's going to sit down and do the accounting at the end of the day.
Yeah. He's taking a look at the books. So season 1 of the show, they didn't have a huge budget. So a lot of the stuff was rented or purchased, except for Cillian's suits were all made by tailor Keith Watson, who she was using for years. He started off on Savile Row in the 60s. So he is a master tailor, knew what he was doing, and it showed. I'm like, Stephanie, you knew where to put your money.
Yeah, he knew a little something about this. So he knew what he was doing. Oh, man.
And getting into who I would say the other main character, Aunt Polly.
Oh, man.
You were not interested in watching this show till I said Helen McCrory.
When Elizabeth said Helen McCrory is in this, it was immediate okay, I have to watch this. Yeah. Everyone else, I mean, she's probably one of my favorite actresses. I would say maybe number 2.
Yeah.
To me, she's my favorite character, obviously, and I think she's the heart of the show. And we'll get into it probably a little later. Yeah. But she also, her costumes, phenomenal. And Stephanie talked about it to Close on Film, saying we wanted a slightly mannish quality to her. She was the one running everything when the boys were at war. She's been usurped, really, I suppose. Her look is from slightly earlier, Edwardian, with this period. Everyone's not suddenly, oh, it's all 20s. Let's suddenly be flappers. Yeah. I love dressing Helen. She loves fashion and loves clothes. So
so was really interested in everything. She has a navy pinstripe suit that was another recreation from an original.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, she dresses like the boss all the time.
Yes.
She goes from like she's like they mentioned some slightly mannish, so to say, looks, and then there's some where you're just like, oh, she could be like the boss of this family.
Yeah.
She, actually, one of my favorite costumes in the entire series is season 1, episode 6, when she's talking to Grace. Basically, it was like, you need to piss all the way off and never be in my presence ever again. And she sits down with her cigarette and that suit. And you're like, ooh. like Aunt Polly does not mess around. And I would have moved to America immediately.
Same.
Because I don't want Polly Gray after me.
Especially when she's like, the only reason I haven't shot you yet is because you did actually save his life.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much.
It's
I mean,
so scary.
Her costumes are on point from beginning to end, I might add.
And I love Polly's the one character you really see that Edwardian to 20s like shift.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, she's an older woman, and back then it was much more common for women to like keep the clothes of their youth a little bit longer and like keep to that style. But you can kind of see her transition like especially like in her coats.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I like these.
Polly Gray has a couple coats or two in her closet.
There are good coats in this show. But then on the other side of things, we have Grace.
Oh, Grace.
Who, she's also, especially like in her like barmaid outfits, a little bit more Edwardian. Mm-hmm. But she's young. She's like stepping into that flapper style. And Stephanie talked about how much they recreated for Grace's character. She said, we made a lot of stuff for the women. Annabelle Wallace especially. I think it's better to have something original to recreate rather than trying to design your own 20s outfit. I would always use original designs when I can. The red dress that Annabelle wears at the races was also a copy of an original dress. It was actually blue, but we knew we wanted red for that scene. She was the Scarlet Woman.
Oh, that's good.
Right?
I didn't even think of that. I mean, there was times where I was like, Tommy, come on. Like, she's so clearly like has ulterior, like alternative motives. They do fall in love, which again, saw that coming from a mile away.
If I were her, I would too.
I mean, this whole thing was so obvious, but he was so shooketh when he found out. And I was like, she is a fashion model who walked off the streets and was like, can I be a barmaid?
Yeah.
And listen in on all your conversations. It was like, you know.
Well, that's like one of the things I think is interesting about this show, because Tommy's very much like, oh, we're a modern enterprise, like women have a say.
Yeah.
But he still shows all those like ingrained patterns of like prejudice towards women, which one would be not thinking this beautiful woman has anything bad to do to him or any alternative motives.
Like there was nothing in his mind that said, wow, this really educated woman might be up to something.
He immediately thinks like, oh, you're a rich girl who got knocked up and now like your family like cast you out.
But I mean, Annabelle Wallace is great. And I'm so glad that they kept her storyline kind of going throughout the series. They didn't just end it. You know, with season 1, because they totally could have.
Moving on to season 2, we have Lerna Marie Muggen, who you will know from the 2012 miniseries Treasure Island, for which she got an Emmy nomination, Ripper Street seasons 1 and 2, for which she got a BAFTA nomination, Normal People, and Chapelwaite. Unfortunately, she didn't really do any press for Peaky Blinders, or none that I could find, but her work is gorgeous and really follows what Stephanie was doing, but bringing it more into the 1920s, because it's 2 years later. It's 1921. And so we have a lot more of like that flapper influence, especially for the women.
Yeah, major credit to all 4 costume designers. That's so hard to do a show like this with 4 different costume designers. But between the four of them, they were all able to keep this very cohesive vision that like very accurately showed the movement of time. There was never a season where I was like, oh, like, you know, what happened here? Like it all just like moved seamlessly. And season 2, you know, you're talking about a little bit about how it's not quite like Flappers, The Great Gatsby vision.
Yeah.
Season 2, you kind of start to see it creep in, especially I think Polly Gray is kind of the cursor in that. Because you start to see like some of those like drapey fabrics starting to show up. She's starting to lose like the very tailored look. It's starting to get a little bit more relaxed, which I really appreciate. But also season 2 to me is like the season of like the horse derby, which is like its own fashion in general, you know, with the hats and going to the race and just giving like your Sunday best, or I don't know what day it is, but I'm going to assume it's a Sunday because that's how everyone dresses. Like they're just looking like so polished, ready to be outdoors and like their spring colors. At the same time, the Shelby siblings never lose like that direction they had in the first season.
No,
if anything,
they
they're
don't.
just building on it slightly.
Exactly. But I feel like, especially with like the younger women characters, that's where they're pulling it in more. Especially Grace's derby outfit. I'm like, you've seen what fashion is coming and you're ready for it.
Grace looks like, I just imagine like a postcard of what 1920s derby women look like. Like Grace is very, very that. There has to be like a, you know, vintage picture of this woman somewhere.
Yeah.
Going back to, her name's May Carlton. It was so obvious that Tommy was going to hook up with her again.
Yeah.
I just see the way that Tommy looks at literally any woman. I'm like, don't do it, man.
Like, I'm so annoyed at Grace coming back.
Oh, right.
And like basically cutting this relationship short.
Yeah.
I think they would have like taken their relationship slow.
Yeah.
Like been like, okay, you're my hookup. Maybe like it'll turn into something else. But like for now, like you're with me, I'm with you. We'll see what happens in the future. Yeah. But I do like they bring a lot of like the 1920s in with her.
Yeah. And I also love that it just shows like, even though she is very wealthy, she's a widow, and you do see her like in her big fur coats, but just anytime you see her, like she's actually like wearing the boots and she looks a little roughed up a little bit, maybe a little dirty, which I think
she's not afraid of work.
Yeah, she's not afraid of work, which, you know, another reason why I also kind of wish Tommy went with May. I'm just Grace, I'm sorry.
So,
but like you messed it up first season and you just showed up when things are starting to work out for Tommy. And that didn't go so well, but we'll get to that.
And you're like, I want a baby. I know. Let me go have Thomas knock me up.
Yeah. And it happened very fast.
Yes. Sometime in this show, sometimes I'm just like, what?
But also season 2 is that the first season where they start raiding like the London bars also too?
Yeah.
Seeing that like very like kind of that Great Gatsby aesthetic too, the Art Deco. It's all very fun. I love season 2. That was a good one. Yeah. But now we are moving along to season 3.
Season 3, we have the wonderful Alexandra Caulfield, who you might know from her Emmy and BAFTA nominated House of Saddam. Beautiful season. Really, it's probably like a year, I think, after season 1, judging on the size of their child. I don't think they actually tell us how far in the future this season is. But like everyone's like, they're like the Shelbys are coming up in the world.
They are coming up.
They've got money. The 20s is like really here. It's most of like the Edwardian stuff is done with. And then we have like the Russian royals who just look so good.
The Russian royals look so good. I did not understand what was happening. Honestly, season 3 is my least favorite. Not the costumes, just the plot. I didn't understand what was going on, but I loved it. You know, of course, Tommy had a hookup with the Russian Duchess. I'm not even going to get into that. Unnecessary, but she looked good. And she did like their costumes did like kind of speak to like that Russian, you know, aristocracy a little bit. Like it was very, because they wear a lot of darker colors, lots of blacks and grays, but still also like just very covered up, you know, like I get the impression that even if it was, 70 degrees outside, they'd still be walking out in a big, fur coat.
Yeah.
They just looked very traditional and look like years backwards, It's the roaring 20s now for the Peaky Blinders, but this Russian family shows up and they're very much still in like the 1800s to me.
Because they're technically refugees. Yeah. They had to flee after the fall of the Russian royals in World War I. So they're definitely like, there's some throwback for them just because they don't necessarily have the money to buy the latest fashions.
Right.
Who does have the money to wear the latest fashions, though, but wears this stunning, 1890s gown? Polly.
Oh, this is the season she gets the portrait done, right?
Yes.
Oh, man, I love that. That's good stuff.
She wears that dress into that party with all the confidence in the world.
Yeah, she looks good. And she also is she's showing a new side. She gives very much like president vibes, She shows up to the function looking her best. And while she might not be the boss, she feels and looks like the boss. So no one ever questions her role in it. I mean, she's the one character that kind of goes in and out of business all the time. But no one ever questions it because she's the best. Season 3 also had this perfect montage because season 3 is the season where you start to the women's movement and starting to really kick up in this season. And there's an episode where all the Shelby women go on strike essentially just to join for the day. Literally they do it for a day because they're not diehard followers, but they're like, that sounds fun for today.
Let's show Thomas how much he'll miss without us.
They have this moment, another one of those montages we're talking about, where they're just walking down the street. They all look so good. Esme, Lizzie, Ada, and Polly with the sunglasses, the blue, the hair bob is bobbing. I mean, Polly's just killing it.
She is. She really is. And I like the confidence Polly has in her wardrobe for this season.
Yeah.
Is stunning.
It's killer. It's probably my favorite part of the season. But I have to ask you, because we all know that you love a wedding, who got a quick shot of Tommy and Grace's wedding. Yes. And Grace is wearing purple.
Yeah. I like it. I wish they'd gone a slightly different direction in the cut of the dress, because she's so stylish, and I feel like it didn't quite suit her.
Yeah.
But then also her whole family's there, and they're obviously very judgy people. Yeah. So I feel like maybe it was influenced by her family also. In this point in time, if you had already been married, you couldn't wear white. So I like
that'll do it.
Yep. I like the purple option for her. It's especially because I feel like they're kind of trying to hide who she is at first. Did Thomas really get with Grace?
Yeah.
Did he not? What? So I like that very heavy veil. And then when it gets pulled back, it falls very beautifully.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the little bit of mystery that they create around that. Especially because the end of season 2, he thinks he's gonna die, so he's telling Grace go back to her husband. He
thinks he's gonna die every season. I do like it. I get it. I totally wish that, because she's totally a supermodel in every sense of the way. So you're kind of hoping she's gonna do this big, kind of like what Polly's wearing in that portrait. But I also feel though that Grace is kind of, while her family is there, she's kind of blending in with the Shelby family a little bit more. And walking down that aisle with that very heavy, purple fabric veil. To me, it's kind of a nod to the Irish Romani, heritage of the Shelby family a little bit. It's almost like she's trying to play both sides a little bit, which is kind of what a marriage is.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like she's kind of giving like a bigger nod to the Shelby family.
I think she definitely prefers the Shelby.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, my family's cool, but
Yeah.
Shelby's are cooler. Which I get it, girl.
I get it. Yeah.
Elizabeth, there's a lot of characters that we want to get into before we talk about our final season.
Yeah. So there are just like a myriad of villains. Over the course of this show.
And almost all played by some sort of like Oscar award-winning actor or Emmy nominee, or like there's no one cast in this show that's like a nobody.
No, literally not.
For example, Tom Hardy as Alfie, who just shows up randomly in any old season. Almost, you don't even know he's connected until he shows up and gives us all a lecture.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy is I love him. He's
Tom Hardy's great. Yeah.
He's great. I also love that he kind of carried his like Bane voice from The Dark Knight into this on accident, but made him just so much cooler. Don't you hear it?
I didn't till you said that.
Yeah, he's totally like, he definitely didn't lose the Bane voice.
That was the voice he was doing underneath whatever voice monification they had.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I thought Tom Hardy was great. Sam Neill, our guy from Jurassic Park as Chester Campbell. Such a cringy character, but he gave a great perforance as that character. He was scary.
And he's like the only person who wears a bowler hat in this show, and he worked it.
Yeah. That's true. He does. He's like one of the few bowler hats, and it becomes like his signature in both season 1 and 2. I also love Adrien Brody as Luca Changretta.
You really loved him.
Oh, that was my favorite season. Season 4, when the New York Italian mafia shows up to mess with the Shelbys. Come on. That was great writing.
You're like, Corleone sent these people.
Yes, Adrien Brody is giving Vito Corleone. He has the voice. They all have the hat and the Tommy gun. Like that was pinnacle Mobster March for me. I was like, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
My pick of The Godfather and Elizabeth Peaky Blinders met in season 4. We could have just did the episode about season 4 to me.
Honestly, I'd love like a crossover season. I kept thinking about this during season 1. A crossover season with Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
And then a crossover season with The Godfather.
Yeah. Oh man. There's so many other good characters. Patty Considine, who played the creepy priest in season 3.
So gross.
Of course, we know him from House of the Dragon as King Targaryen. I've suddenly forgot his first name. Some combination of Aemon, Daemon. I don't know. Okay. So, well, first I love Sabini, the Italian mobster.
Yeah. I love
scary.
how like different they look too.
Yeah.
Compared, they have they have the bold like tie that's almost more like a cravat, and then they always have like really bold handkerchiefs and like some sort of like lapel decoration.
Right. But then I know we're getting ready to talk about the last couple seasons in a second here, and 2 of the main villains are Jack Nelson and Oswald Mosley and his very creepy wife, Diana Mitford. First, did you know I loved the show because it like carried nonfiction but presented it in a fictional way? Do you know that Jack Nelson was inspired by JFK's father? And JFK's father was like deeply interested in fascism.
He was. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
I was Googling this at like 1 a.m. last night and I was like, oh my word.
Yes.
Like, it's hot,
oh my gosh. That makes his character makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah. Such a creepy guy.
Yeah.
Because he has, he kept saying he has like the year of the White House and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Just to think about how close like America almost got involved on the wrong side of
World
history
War
there. I mean, you can make an argument for a lot of occasions in history where America's effed up like that. But that was a very, very close F up. Especially when you see Oswald Mosley and his wife. Like, they are probably the creepiest TV characters I've seen in a while.
She gave me the ick.
Seriously.
Like, more than him, which, like, I was like, how?
That's hard to top.
Yeah. And she looks like so elegant the entire time.
Yeah.
But then what comes out of her mouth, I'm just like, Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this whole like last 2 seasons are about the rise of fascism, which was not expecting at all. Which, I mean, if you look at a history book, you should be, but I was dumb and I was just like, what is going on here? Very creepy, lots of black, lots of, black and red, which is never a good combination of colors.
No.
Very, very spooky. Very spooky.
So spooky. It was so spooky.
Yeah.
But then we have all of our wonderful side characters to keep it light.
Yeah.
Or not.
I gotta get away from the fascist stuff. There are lots of great characters. Also a lot of great performances. For example, Aidan Gillen, who played Abraham Gold. We all know from as Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. I'm very proud of my guy here because I've had a very hard time of separating him from Game of Thrones, and he killed it.
He does.
Yeah,
he absolutely does.
I actually liked him by the end.
Yeah.
And at first you see him when they arrive to, the town in Birmingham, and like he has the long hair and he looks kind of like disheveled, and you're like eye rolling like, here we go, not this guy again. And by the end you're like,
he cleans himself up.
Cleans up. He becomes a Peaky Blinder real quick.
He does. And I love his scarves.
Yeah.
They just suit him so well.
Yeah, that's a killer scarf. Literally. So many other good characters, of course, like
Esme Shelby. She always looks so cool.
Esme Shelby, which really we gotta give credit to all the costume designers for doing their research too on like the Romani culture and like that influence of the of the Irish coming over into this area. That's a lot of research, I imagine. So that's like its own challenge as it is. I love Jerimiah. I really thought I liked Michael Gray at first. I was really rooting for him.
Same. And then his wife comes in and ruins everything.
Yeah. First time Anya Taylor-Joy's ever ruined anything.
Yeah, literally.
But Michael Gray, like, he looks like a young boy, like wearing like a grown-up gangster's suit, which I think is just such clever storytelling by the costume designers.
It is. And like he's like trying so hard to like stay on the right side of the law while still like being okay with what Tommy does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't believe like he's only 17 at this, like when he's introduced in the show.
Right. And then by the end, he even tries like the mustache thing by the end. You're like, come on, Michael.
No.
Let's be real here. And then he loses and that was satisfying.
Yeah.
Sad, but by the end of season 6, you're like, whatever. Gotta say, don't enjoy Linda Shelby.
No. And
Linda, you kind of suck. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And her clothes, she always dresses very well, but I always get like the boring side of the 20s for her because she's so she's so like buttoned up and like will not let her hair down in front of other people even slightly.
Yeah, Linda's just a little too, and how she ends up with Arthur is beyond me because they just don't mesh at all.
Right. Well, okay, she's I'm going to fix this man girl.
Yeah.
That's how they ended up. For some reason, Arthur walked into a church one day, probably looking real sad, and she like kind of knew who he was and was like, I can fix this man.
Yeah. Linda, that's just one project I would not take on. No. She starts the show off like being like that very buttoned up kind of boring instance where she's like, oh, like don't do this, don't do that, but then she kind of like bends the rules every once in a while whenever she feels fit. Like I'd fight Linda, honestly. When she left, I was like, go go away. Get out of here. All right, let's get into seasons 4 through 6.
Yes. So for seasons 4 through 6, we have costume designer Alison McCosh, who has a very prolific career as an assistant costume designer for Louise Miggenbach, working on all 3 The Hangover movies, X-Men Origins Wolverine, X-Men Days of Future Past, and many other films with Louise. And recently, she has been the costume designer for Small Things Like These, starring Cillian Murphy, and she's the costume designer for the upcoming Peaky Blinders film.
Yeah. Allison just putting it out there. We're going to reach out when this film comes out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I did not know there was going to be a film until I did everything I could not to Google this show when I was watching it. And then finally, when I finished late last night, I was like, please let there be something else.
Yeah.
And I'm so stoked I get to be a part of it. It's going to be so good.
I'm so excited. I think it's going to be great. And I love that Allison just like took on these last 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just like finishes off the series so strongly. Yeah. She said to Sunday Post about coming onto the show, when I started the show, we're at 1927, so some time has passed a little since the last series, which meant it was slightly easier for me to put my own mark on things, which I think she really does, because she's right. It goes from the early 1920s in season 3 to the late 1920s in season 4. So that's quite the style shift. Yeah. It's fully flapper. Mm-hmm. They're fully in it in season 3. And especially with the men, she has kept that very polished look that Stephanie started in season 1. But the women, everyone around them, like she brings in the 20s with such force in season 4. Yeah. That it's like, oh, okay, like let's get into it. Yeah. I feel like season 4 is a good, like, overall, a good kind of like mid-series, like revamp.
Oh, yeah. I think Allison came in at the right time. Mm-hmm. It's the 20s, but maybe it's not so much roaring anymore. It's like people are very much used to this way of life. So like, it's not like people are wearing their costumes where they feel so new. It's like they are just very comfortable and made this their part of life. But you also get to see like a lot of these characters getting older in a way. While they might not look it because it's only like a real year has passed, but you could just tell that they've all become a lot more polished and a lot more put together in very subtle ways. Again, I think Polly is like a great sign of that.
Absolutely.
There's also Ada too, but Ada like has many like identity shifts in this show. I would say a new one every season, so she's kind of hard to watch. But Polly and Tommy are definitely like real cursors to like the movement that Allison brought to the show.
Absolutely. And she talked about capturing authenticity in the show to slashfilm.com, saying, when you're doing a period show, it's important to capture as much of period authenticity as possible. I find that today's fabrics don't tell the true story. So I find auction houses selling vintage clothes and fabrics, and then I'll adapt from that. Sometimes we'll have to reweave a piece back together, but what you get is the right color. What I found is that when an actor walks into an authentic piece, they really feel like they're becoming the character.
Yeah. I'll say.
Yeah. And it shows, especially with Thomas, as we're going through the series. Like, he is a businessman now. Yeah. He has legitimate business.
I mean, he wears glasses. These seasons.
Yeah, season 5, he puts them on a lot.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, okay, like we're reading now.
Yeah, and she said for Tommy, the change to his wardrobe, it's minimal with him. It is very subtle, but I think you can see that it's very subtle, but you can't see it. Which it's like, it's so true. It's just like, just a little like nicer coat, just even like the linings in his coat are clearly nicer. Yeah. His like, he has more like the tie clips and the pocket watch chains are nicer.
Yeah. He has something everywhere. He has a ring, or he has the gloves, or he has, the pocket watch. He always has something with the glasses. He's very accessorized like at all times. I mean, like, if you haven't finished the series, spoiler alert, but like at the end of the series when he thinks he's getting ready to die, and there's that moment where he's taking off like every little accessory in his wagon. You're like, oh man, this guy's wearing a whole bunch of stuff all the time. Like, he's always put together.
He really is. But for Allison, It was all about the female characters for her. She said to the Sunday Post, I wanted to bring the female characters forward stylistically and really make them present and on equal level to the men.
Yeah, I feel that.
Which she definitely does with Lizzie.
Oh, Lizzie.
Lizzie.
I love Lizzie. She deserves so much better.
She
Tommy.
does.
Come on, man.
I love when she's like, so I'm your biggest regret. And he's like, well, yeah, because I couldn't give you actually what you deserved.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, word.
Yeah, Tommy. She deserves so much better.
I hated how he treated Lizzie all the time. And then, I mean, he's constantly like gassing her up, and then he'll cheat on her with like the fascist wife for no reason. I'm just like, please give Lizzie some
credit, some respect.
Yeah, Lizzie's beautiful. She wears clothes so well.
Yes. And like she just like lets Tommy do his thing most of the time.
Most of the time.
I get the feeling from her, she's like, I don't ask for much, but what I ask for, I expect you to do.
Yeah, and even still, he's like, business, Lizzie. And I'm like, come on, bro, 5 minutes.
Allison talked to Netflix about Lizzie, saying, I absolutely love Ada's story and Lizzie's. She was a prostitute, and then she worked her way up in the world, and she's really arrived in season 6. She's confident. She looks the part. There's this moment in season 6 where they're at a benefit for Mitchford and Mosley, and she's in her glamorous evening gown. When we were on set that day, she turned around and looked from the top of the stairs. It's a great shot. It was as if she was looking down on society, as if she had arrived. It was her Hollywood moment.
Yeah.
I love that dress.
It's true. Like every time you saw her, she turned around and she had like a glow about her.
Yes.
Or like that one over the shoulder look that she does in one of the seasons too. I think that's during the ballet show. Yeah, she just always looked so put together, looked very glamorous, kind of like old Hollywood.
Yes.
Lizzie deserved better.
She deserves so much better. I also love a lot of the colors they choose for her. They choose these beautiful like orange and yellow golds, which just looks so beautiful on Natasha O'Keeffe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like a lot of people can't pull that color off.
Right.
And it looks so stunning on her, and she wears it so well.
Lizzie is my favorite love interest for Tommy, and he's the one that she's the one that he disrespects like the most, which makes me crazy. But she's over Grace or the trainer lady, or I mean, it's just like so on and so forth.
Yeah,
like she was the best. So Natasha O'Keeffe, if you're listening, we got you.
Yeah.
But also, I hope that you show up in the movie.
Oh,
so
gosh,
hopefully Tommy could say sorry at the very least. That's all I want.
Right?
Please, someone get this man to apologize.
I want him to be like on his knees being like, Lizzie, please don't leave me. I thought I was dying.
Yeah. Or Lizzie should be like in the movies in the movie. Like he drives to LA and she's like on the red carpet.
In Hollywood.
Yeah, with all her men. Anyways, you kind of warned me, but I was not ready for Anya Taylor-Joy to show up. Especially to be dating, of all people, Michael Gray. I was like, come on.
I love Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
And I didn't think she could ever play a character I didn't like.
She killed it.
She's so unlikable.
Yeah,
Gina's awful.
She's awful. She sucks. I don't know why Gina hated everyone so much.
Literally.
I guess she's especially because like Michael, I don't think was actually as mad at Tommy as he ended up being.
She egged him on.
She egged him on the whole time.
And looks beautiful doing it.
Because he went years without trying to get Tommy.
Yeah.
Like he kind of, like sometimes they're like, I really was going to fight this person at a Walmart, but that was like 30 minutes ago. That was very...
like, because him and Tommy get easily annoyed at each other.
Yeah.
Because like, they have two very different roles that kind of don't mesh well together.
Yeah.
But like, he was like, okay, like, you're my cousin, like, whatever. And then she just comes in and was like, No.
Yeah, this like East Coast American socialite.
Yeah.
Please get into these costumes.
They're so beautiful. And unfortunately, we don't get a lot on her costumes. But British Vogue spoke to Julie Nightingale, the leading hair and makeup designer for Peaky Blinders. And Julie said of Gina's look, I wanted them to look like the socialites they've become. I was very much drawn to Hollywood glamour of actresses just such as Jean Harlow, Ginger Rogers, and Carol Lombard.
Yeah, I mean, she is very much giving Hollywood glamour.
Yeah.
That's all I could, especially in season 6 when she was like in that living room of some kind with like all the very heavy Art Deco inspiration behind her.
Because they're in like the early 30s at this point. So it's very Hollywood glamour for her. Anya Taylor-Joy always looks amazing. And what can Anya Taylor-Joy not do at this point? She can do everything.
She can do everything. I'm with you on that. All right.
So Polly really gets an upgrade when Allison comes on. She said to Sunday Post about Aunt Polly, she's becoming a lot stronger, a lot bolder, and that's really reflected in her costumes in season 4 and 5. I really loved the idea of putting her in trouser and a suit just to make a real statement. You can really see the transition from Polly from season 1. Each season, the costume designer has added something to reflect her growing wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, yes, all the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Polly just every season kind of like has like not like a full makeover, but you could just really almost kind of, like I said, she's kind of the cursor to the times.
Yeah.
But she starts showing up in like a lot more suits. My favorite costume, I'm just going to say it, is when she's leaning against a car at the beginning of, I think it's season 5 when she starts. And yeah, definitely season 5. She's leaning against a car with her hat and the suit and the trousers, the glasses. And you see Polly and like, oh man, like she, you know, like she says, I basically died back there and now I'm just taking advantage of my time to the full extent, which I think is a really beautiful sentiment, especially for what Helen McCrory was going through at this time, where this character, she's really reflecting like, I'm taking advantage of my time and doing everything I want to do. I want to dress who I want to be. I want to do the things I want to do. Yeah, such a great ending for this character in the sense that you really saw the full evolution through her costumes to the very end.
You did. And Allison talked to Netflix about her collaboration with Helen, saying Helen and I were very collaborative and it was such a joy because she really understood the importance of costume. She always had this sway in her hips, this kind of youth and confidence. The costumes were embellishing upon that. The actor is the canvas. Whatever she was giving, I was dressing.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, that's wonderful.
Yeah. We talked about this too in like Penny Dreadful, but which was a couple seasons ago now, but like she just wears clothes so well.
So well.
I imagine she's like the dream collaborator for a costume designer because you could tell that she's really involved in the process and she'll make anything you pick
good.
Look amazing. Helen McCrory is so missed. She is just such a light. This show, she absolutely is amazing in. I think she's the best part. Yeah, and I honestly, I just the whole time kept thinking about what other things we would see her do at this point, because she was really at the top of her game at Peaky Blinders, and such a shame that she didn't get to do the last season. She passed away, I sound like right before, unfortunately. And if COVID had come down, she would have been in the final season, is what the consensus was.
She was, especially when we get into season 6. And we have Ada Shelby, who has also come on her own journey through these seasons. Allison talked to Metro UK about Ada's very different wardrobe this season. She said, I think it would be really interesting that Ada would want to step in and step off into Polly's shoes. Use some of the pieces I've created and designed for Polly if we can have Ada wear them. I think it would be really interesting visually to show that. Ada trying to step into Polly's shoes. So we did that. Sophie loved that idea, and that was the way for me to have Polly move on through Ada.
Wow.
So a lot of these costumes are what she had already designed and made for Helen, and they just adapted them for Sophie to wear as Ada, becoming like the matriarch of the family, essentially.
That's, yeah, I didn't know that, but I mean, I kind of saw that though too, because there's that one episode. Yeah. It's just one episode where Ada steps into the office because Tommy is out searching for Esme in the mountains, and Ada is like totally stepping into Polly's shoes, and you see that in the way she's dressed and put together. That's really powerful and awesome. I'm so glad Allison got to do that, but also just like, I can't imagine what this cast was going through in this final season, losing such like a pivotal piece to this, and you could see it on their faces actually. Like there's that whole scene, I think, when they were at the funeral for Tommy's kid, like it just felt all very real to me that they were actually going through these emotions the whole time. And Ada, of most of all the characters, you could just see it on her, and that must have been such a interesting challenge for her to carry Ada, Polly's clothes with her that Helen never got to wear. So, major props to everyone who put that last season together. That was absolutely not easy. And that brings us to the end of Peaky Blinders. Elizabeth, that was such a good one.
Right?
Yeah, that was so good.
Your overall thought about Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
Because you've heard me talk about it for years, and now
I thought it was great. We'll just get into our Stitch ratings. I'm going to give it a 5. It's a perfect series. I think that there are definitely some seasons that are stronger than others. But that being said, I don't think there was ever a time where I was bored watching this show. I felt all the emotions. I thought every single cast member, all the way from the youngest brothers to, Tommy and Polly, like every actor was incredible. The costumes were fantastic. I think the only season that I didn't really care for was the final season, but I just have to give them so much grace because I just can't imagine not only coming off of COVID, so things are now so much more difficult, but then losing Helen McCrory. I mean, they had to rewrite things and it just didn't go the way they did. That being said, it still was a great final season.
It was.
That last episode really was like the perfect little period. I kind of wanted to punch Thomas Shelby in the face. There was never like a redeeming moment for him. And then it's like so dark and depressing. And they're like, also, we're going to introduce fascism. And you're like, oh, okay, great. I wasn't depressed already.
Yeah.
But overall, I just thought it was a phenomenal show, and I'm so glad that there's a good movie, and it just blows my mind. I mean, explain this to me. It must be because this was like a BBC show that this show wasn't nominated for a single Emmy.
I'm on the same as you. Like, I don't know how this isn't nominated. Every season doesn't have nominations across the board.
I looked up, I was like, I wonder how many times Cillian Murphy won leading actor, and I pulled it up and I was like,
not even nominated.
No. I was like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
So I think it just probably was not distributed in American markets right away. Was it always on Netflix? Or
it was a Netflix original, but that was the distributor here in the US.
It had to be something like that. So
but it's such a...
It got BAFTA nominations, so I think that was its market.
I agree, but it's so popular in the US.
Yeah.
I too don't understand.
There must be some TV Cammy rule that we don't know.
Yeah.
Because there's no way. This show was fantastic.
I know.
And I think that Helen McCrory and Cillian Murphy, and even the guy who plays Arthur Shelby, who's very awesome as well. They should all have nominations at least.
Yeah, he's how did you not get nominated for Best Supporting Actor? Yeah, come on.
Please tell me. It's also good.
I too give it a 5-stitch rating because one thing I didn't really like get into, but both Stephanie and Allison talked about, you know, the collaboration with like Set.
Yeah.
And how like, you know, they're like in the meetings and stuff, you can only like discuss and like imagine what everyone else is going to do. But they were always so happy when they got to set.
Yeah.
And everything looked so good and was cohesive and just told this dark but fun but disturbing story.
Yeah.
Like
it makes you feel all the emotions. Literally by the end of season 6, I was like, I'm so depressed. But like, and like you said, like season 4 feels like the perfect like mobster story where you get lots of action and there's heart and there's love and there's it's everything. So great pick, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
I was really dreading telling you how I was dreading telling you how right you were about this season. I wanted to do like a typical Goodfellas and call it a day.
You were like, okay, but what about Scarface?
Which I stand by. But
well, I mean,
I'm glad we did this.
Yeah.
There's more seasons. We'll get to it. So Peaky Blinders for life. I'm into it. Allison, we can't wait to have you on the podcast to talk about the movie. I don't know when it comes out. I didn't even know it existed until last night, but it's going to be a good one. Sounds like Barry Keoghan and Rebecca Ferguson's going to be in it. So I'm just hoping to see more of the cast pop up. Let's play our one costume to rule them all.
Yes, Spencer.
Or not Elizabeth. Daniel, hit it.
The one costume to rule them all.
Spencer, what's your one costume to rule them all?
Easy. Polly Gray's suit when she's leaning against a car. Just because she looks like such a badass. It's just like she took my breath away. The way she even like she's such a great actress. The way she's just holding a cigarette or just the way she poses. Like you could tell that she has like definitely like a fashion training. I'm not sure if she ever modeled, but like just the way like you could tell she's posed on a red carpet or two though.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely. She knows.
But I did put a honorable mention to that season 1 episode 6 look that she wears to tell Grace to piss off, because that was my one costume to rule them all up until I saw the car suit. Like I even wrote it down. I was like, all right, my one costume, because you never know with 6 seasons. You're like, I'm not sure how much I'm gonna remember by the time we do the podcast. I remember that season 1 look where I was like, oof. And that was before they even had the money. You know?
Yeah. That was when they were, you know, illegal bookies.
What was your choice?
My choice is kind of like season 3 through or season 4 through 6, Thomas Shelby, especially that navy suit with the maroon tie, the maroon lining, and that like wool trench coat.
Yeah.
His hat. Like it's, you see this picture, you see him in that ensemble. And you're like, oh, that's Peaky Blinders.
Yeah. Like even like that nice lining underneath too. You know, like this guy has money now. Yeah, so much good stuff. Elizabeth, thank you for making us watch Peaky Blinders.
Anytime.
And thank all of you for listening to this. This was probably a little bit of a longer episode, but we had a lot to get through. But I am convinced that you're all going to enjoy this episode because I've known how many people have loved Peaky Blinders for a long time. So I'm sure, I hope to scratch that Peaky Blinders itch that you have. It's not how I imagined Mobster March going, but it was the perfect way to just talk about everything, a whole era of clothing.
Yeah.
But if you want to tell us what you thought, please email us at theartofcostume@gmail.com. And if you want to check out my cool Peaky Blinders hat that is too big for my head, you can see it on youtube.com/@theartofcostume. Make sure you comment and subscribe. Tell us what you think, what your favorite costumes were, who your favorite characters were, which characters you wanted to smack on a consistent basis. We read all these comments.
Yeah. Who your favorite villain was.
Why Adrien Brody was your favorite villain.
Yep.
Why
Tom Hardy was your favorite villain.
Elizabeth, in typical The Art of Costume podcast fashion, we are shaking things up.
Yes,
we cannot pick a more different film to watch in our next episode. Elizabeth, what is better than one Robert Pattinson?
17.
17, Robert Pattinson's. Next week, we are watching director Bong Joon-ho's new film, Mickey 17, featuring 18
Yes.
Mickeys, actually. 18 Roberts. Such a good film.
So much fun.
So much fun. We got to go see it at the theaters the other day, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Me too.
We haven't really talked about it much, so we're going to get into it. In the meantime, please leave us a 5-star text review on Apple Podcasts and rate us on Spotify. Lots of good fun. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in space.
Yes. Have a fantastic week.